All right. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. And thank you for having me here today. So I'm going to talk to you about how you can build effective customer feedback loops for your software development process. And before I get started, I'll just say a few words to introduce myself. So my name is Malik, and for the past 3 years, I've been working for a company called Atlassian. So has anyone heard about Atlassian before already? Okay, a lot of friends already. So, but just to put it back in context, Atlassian is a software company based in Sydney, San Francisco, and Amsterdam that makes software for other software development teams. So, you may have heard about Atlassian tools such as Jira that can help you track your project tasks. Maybe you've heard about Confluence that is here when your team needs to collaborate on documents. And one of our latest products is Stash. You may have heard about Stash. It helps you to manage your Git repositories. And what I do for Atlassian is being a so-called product advocate. Product advocate is all about helping potentially new users to quickly understand the solutions that Atlassian has to offer to them. But being a product advocate also means that I get to go to major software development conferences, like today, in order to share some of the best practices about Agile that Atlassian has learned over the years developing software. So, for today, I will actually propose the following agenda for our talk. So, for the next 15 minutes or so, I will go through the importance of feedback in your build, measure, learn product development cycle. I will then introduce you to 3 different projects that we've had at Atlassian and from which we've learned the most in terms of techniques about getting feedback. And I will only talk about those projects because I want to share with you those personal experiences, and they will help, and I will refer to them to illustrate my 4 practical tips that I have for you today and that you can use to maybe also help you create an effective customer feedback loop. So I hope you find it useful. Let's get started with the build, measure, learn product development cycle. The build, measure, learn product development cycle is actually a concept of the Lean Startup methodology. Well, the Lean Startup is a method for developing products and businesses, first proposed in 2011 by Eric Ries. By the way, has anyone read this book, The Lean Startup Guide? Okay, a few people as well. So just to sum it up very briefly, in this book, the author describes a lean startup cycle for product development. And also he emphasizes the very importance of getting feedback in that build, measure, learn cycle. But in fact, it's all about learning early and learning often. And what it says is that the faster you can learn about the product or the code you shipped, then the better the final product will be. So, Lean Startup typically goes through a loop that looks something like this. So, you start with your product team, and they have an idea about something they want to build. So, they start building that something. They produce some artifacts. And then when these artifacts have been produced, then comes the time to measure the impact of those changes and the effect of those changes. So you need to get some metrics on how the product is being used. And from these analytics, you can then formulate your learning. And you can see what's working and what could be improved. And from that, you formulate new ideas, new proposals, new ways for doing things. And the whole idea is to be as agile as possible and iterate through that loop as fast as possible. But for the rest of this talk, I'm just going to focus on the measure and learn part of this cycle. And more specifically, I will be focusing on the techniques on how to get the direct customer feedback there. Because typically, measuring comes through such things as in-product analytics, but also through general customer feedback. And nowadays, you may have heard a lot of talk, and there's typically a lot of speech about number of downloads, number of clicks, number of evaluations. So it's all about analytics. And here I think it's important to remind ourselves of also the importance of the direct customer feedback, the so-called unsolicited feedback from the customers, because that's the kind of feedback that's often easy to miss, but receiving that direct communication from your customers is actually also a critical part of the success of your software development. So, let me tell you how we learned about getting feedback from Atlassian. I'm going to introduce you to 3 different projects that we've had and from which we've learned very different techniques in terms of getting feedback. So, one of the first experiences that we've had was with a major change that we've done for Confluence. As I quickly mentioned already, Confluence is a tool that helps your team to collaborate around the creation of documents. It helps you to create documents such as product specifications, requirements, meeting notes, that kind of things. And what we've done with Confluence is that we've radically changed the way that content was created. Because you see, before with Confluence, you could create that content with a code-like syntax editor, a so-called wiki markup. And you probably noticed that we've replaced that wiki markup editor and we've changed it with a more visual editing experience. So-called what you see is what you get visual editing experience. And this was a huge change from which we've learned a lot in terms of techniques to deploy to get effective feedback. Another experience that we've had was with a new product that we've launched. That new product was called Team Calendars. It's technically an add-on that sits on top of Confluence and that helps you and helps your team to track, manage and plan the team events and the projects. And because we were developing a new product, then it was a new project, we had to come up with new ideas and new techniques for collecting the feedback that we needed. And the third experience that I want to share with you is the experience we've had with implementing a major new feature for Confluence. It's called the Workbox feature. And this was one of these features for which we had a big blurry vision for. We kind of knew what we wanted to implement, but we were just not sure who would be the main audience for this. We were just not sure what kind of user would find this the most useful. So again, there we've learned a ton in terms of getting feedback from our users. And so each one of these experiences, for us, learning feedback was actually challenging. At times, we learned the easy way, but most of the time, we learned the hard way. So I'm happy to be here and share these experiences with you, and hopefully build on these experiences to show you 4 practical tips that we have and that you could use as well to help you build your feedback loop. So, if I get started with this, my first tip will be about reducing the friction of reporting feedback. Friction. You need to get rid of that friction that a customer could experience as he's trying to submit his feedback that you need. And you need to get rid of this, and you need to be obsessive about getting rid of it. Because it's important to remember that when a customer is trying to give you that feedback that you need, he's usually busy with other things he has to do with his work. And for him to take the time to report that feedback, well, you need to make it really easy and as easy as possible for him to do so. So, let me give you an example of what I'm talking to you about. Again, in Confluence, as I said, we've radically changed the way the content was created. We've totally rebuilt the whole editor, and so we've changed the whole editing experience for the end user. So this was a huge change, and from which we needed to get feedback from our users in the very early milestones of what we were doing. We knew we had to make it easy for them to report that feedback because we needed to know about the issues that they have encountered, the questions they've had, feature requests, concerns, and that kind of things. So, what did we do to find the best way to reduce the friction for them to report that feedback? Well, we shipped a little feedback button right there in the screen, to be in the context with what the user was doing. So it was very important to try to avoid context switching to report the feedback, because before we used that technique, we used to ask our users to go to a specifically dedicated website to report feedback, and they had to go to this other application, and they had to log in, and if they didn't have a logon, they had to create credentials. So there was a lot of friction involved. And we reduced that friction, and from that feedback button, when the user then click on it, he has what looks like a very simple user interface to report his feedback. There's 2 fields, and only one of them is mandatory. So it looks simple, but in fact, before we came up with this, we had to debate a lot, and we had to discuss a lot about which fields to keep. So we had to question every single field. And we were thinking, do we really need this kind of information? Do we need that feedback? And also, how much feedback can we collect? How much information can we collect automatically? So we ended up with this form, and the result of this new technique is that we had almost 1,000 feedback submissions from users, which was at the time the biggest contribution from our users for a single release of Confluence. So that technique worked out really well for us, and we're now using that technique in all our releases and in all our products to get the feedback that we need. So, 3 principles to reduce the friction and get the feedback effectively. You need to reduce the barrier to entry as much as possible. So you need to remove the context switching and try to keep your user within the application as much as possible. You don't want them to go to another application and report that feedback. Second principle, reduce the number of fields for submitting the feedback. You need to question every single field, and especially what you think are the required fields. Ask yourself, do I really need that data? And what am I going to do with this information that I collect? Also try to collect automatically as much information as possible. The third principle, make it very easy for the user to express themselves. Sometimes, all you want to know is the mood of the user, if he's happy with the application as a general, if he's happy with the new feature, if things are working for him or not. And if that's all you need to know, then that's all that should be there. Make it simple. So, I've talked about reducing friction, and how you can make this easier. But of course, there's more you can do to encourage your customers to give you that feedback that you need. And the second tip I've got for you is about making the whole feedback experience more engaging and more fun. Because there's actually a lot of different techniques and tricks that you can use to incentivize the people to give you the feedback. So let me give you an example, a little bit of context of the software development. There's this game show on television called The Biggest Loser. I think it exists in Russia as well, because it's an international show. And is anyone familiar with this show? Is anybody watching? You can say it's fine. All right. Okay, well, for the ones who are not watching it, this game show actually centers on overweight contestants who are trying to lose weight they're trying to lose the most weight possible for a cash prize. And that's quite interesting. And in fact, it's pretty amazing to think that when you turn something quite unpleasant, such as watching weight, and quite hard, and also being watched for that matter on television, if you do this exercise as a game, then it seems that people are all of a sudden more engaged, and apparently it's more fun to do the whole thing. So we thought, all right, why don't we do something a little bit similar in the context of software development? And we came up with that idea of creating a game called The Biggest Whinger. So, the whinger is, I wasn't also familiar with this name, but the whinger is actually an English term that refers to somebody who complains constantly, somebody who complains a lot. So, we made it a competition to complain for one of our Confluence releases. And we created the Biggest Whinger prize. And the idea was quite simple. Whoever gave us the most amount of feedback will give them a prize. And how did we do this? Well, because we were collecting all the feedback and all the information into Jira, our issue tracker, then it was easy from there to generate a report in form of a leaderboard, and then we would publish that report. And that worked out so well that the users, the beta users, would actually reach out to us directly to ask us how they were doing on the leaderboard, and to ask us for tips on what kind of feedback they could submit to get as high as possible and be the biggest winner. So that worked out really well. But there's also other techniques that you could use, depending on the context that you're working on. So, for instance, for team calendars, which was a new product, we wanted our customers to install the add-on onto the production instance of Confluence. And of course, it's often hard to do installing a beta version of something into production, but we needed that real feedback. So to incentivize our customers, our beta users to do so, we actually offered a free license for if they were willing to participate and give us their feedback. So you might want to try to do this. Give away free licenses to beta customers who want to help you and give you feedback on your betas. Another interesting thing that you can do is take the time to personally thank the people contributing to the feedback. So you can do this in the release notes. That's probably the most efficient. You put, when you release your product, you put a quick note that says, thank you very much, John, and we appreciate your feedback, and we value your time, and thanks again. And this actually goes a long way towards engaging your customers, because when you take the time to thank them personally, well, they know they're being heard, and they're more likely to give you another feedback later at the next release. So now, that's what we do in our release notes. We call out specific thanks, and we mention people there personally. So, quick summary to make it fun. Think about how you can incentivize people to give you feedback on your development. Personally acknowledge the person raising the feedback by saying thank you. And think about game mechanics. That leaderboard that we did for Confluence worked out quite well for us. So, I talked about reducing friction and making the feedback experience more fun and enjoyable. And part of making that experience enjoyable is also trying to get more personal with your customers that are giving you the feedback. So, my third tip is about getting personal. But of course, let me explain what I mean by getting personal in this case. I'm talking about getting to know who your customers are and getting to know who you are writing your software for. Because getting to know who your customers are and trying to understand exactly what they're doing helps you to understand them in a lot more details, and so helps you to create your software much better for them, for this targeted audience. So let me use this experience we've had with implementing the Workbox feature for Confluence. It was a very important new feature, but when we first started working on this project, this was initiated by a vision. We knew that would help users to collaborate faster, but we were just not sure what kind of users would find it the most useful. We were just not sure what would be the profile of this user using it. So this Workbox feature actually takes all the notifications and tasks from all the applications that we have, and it put them into the list. We wanted to see how we could get feedback on this. And part of our development at Atlassian is about dog fooding. So we work with the latest versions of our product internally before we release them to our customers. And this was the case for the Workbox feature. We worked with it exclusively internally initially, and we wanted to get feedback from our internal users first. But Atlassian is now getting a little bit big, with more than 800 employees. So it was hard to get to know everybody. So the problem was that it was hard to get personal with our users. So when we launched this feature internally, one of our engineers came up with a very creative idea to help us solve that problem of getting personal with the users. And how did we do it? We came up with the idea of creating a wallboard. And on that wallboard, we will put the gravatar, the picture of everyone that has used the feature. And that created a huge visual personal connection with the end user. So what you see here is a face of the top users by day. And each day, the analytics will get updated. And you notice that we have different things here. If I zoom, so you notice, of course, that we have the picture of the end user. We are trying to get personal here. Below the picture, we also have his name, so that helps us to connect with him. And we also have some numbers at the bottom. So, just to explain to you, these are the key feature usage. And the number on the left represents the number of notifications received by the user. And the number on the right represents the number of tasks created by the user into that feature. So, in this instance, for example, we know that John has received 2 notifications yesterday and has created 4 tasks. And what we will do with this information is that every morning during our stand-up, the first thing, we will go through this wallboard and we will discuss this. We will be like, hey, look, John has created 4 tasks yesterday, but on average, users create 1 or 2 tasks. So let's reach out to him directly and ask him why he used that feature so much and what we can learn from that. So the tip here is to put a face to the statistics. Try and connect with the person you are building your solution for. This goes a long way toward engaging your engineering team as well. And you start talking about your customers at a more personal level. You start talking about them in your stand-up, but also at lunch. And you say, yeah, you know, when I talked to John yesterday, he said he enjoyed this feature, and when I talked to Steve, he said he would like this thing to be done. So it's an extremely powerful technique to really understand who you're building your solutions for. And in the end, you really get to know your customers. And what's interesting is that you can also use that data to drive personal interviews. You can call them, quick chat, quick Skype, anything you want, and you can have a really personal conversation and get the best feedback that you need. So, my last tip for today is about writing a feedback strategy. Now, feedback strategy, that sounds really formal, but actually in practice, it's actually fairly simple. So how do you do this? You're going to need to sit down and write down 4 criteria, 4 considerations to think about with your software. So, first of all, think about your audience. Are you trying to launch something completely new? Or do you already have something existing? Because how you get feedback for these 2 things is quite different in practice. If you're trying to launch something completely new, you're going to have to do a lot more to focus on reaching out to these people who you do not have a contact with yet to get that feedback. Second thing, are you building this feature for external customers or for employees of your own organizations? Because you'll find out that it's easier to get information for employees, for internal employees, because there's no, it's easier to get the private data because there's no privacy concern there. The third criteria you need to think about you need to think about if you're looking for feedback for a specific feature of your product or for feedback more generically. Because this may affect, for instance, how you place your feedback button within your application. And the last consideration, you need to figure out if you're driven by deadlines. Because if you are driven by deadlines, then you might need to think about how you can incentivize or encourage or do a lot more follow-up with those customers to get the feedback that you want very quick. So if I illustrate this strategy with a very specific example, the one with team calendars, how we run through those 4 criteria, for example. So team calendars, this was our feedback strategy. At the time, it was a brand new product. So we had to think about techniques for engaging the customers that we didn't have made a contact with yet. We had to find the beta customers, and we wanted them to install the add-on into production. So it required a lot more communication overhead on our side to get them to do that. Then we found out, of course, that it was easier to get useful information from internal users because we were not restricted by private data when we were doing this. Then we didn't want to dive too deep into the details of the feedback initially. We were more interested by getting a general feel on how things were going for the users. And then later, we will potentially arrange for personal interviews if we thought a more specific information was needed. And finally, we had a deadline for team calendars. So we gave away free licenses to encourage customers to give us the feedback. And that made a huge difference in the end in the term of amount and quality of data that we got. So a feedback strategy also worked out really well for us. And back then when we released team calendars, so now we're also applying this strategy for all our new products that we release. So that was the last tip. Just a quick summary for this last tip. It's not really hard to actually write this feedback strategy. You just need to take a little bit of time to sit down and get started and write a plan of attack. Also, if you already have some kind of numerical data in terms of feedback from a previous release that you have done or previous project that you have done, then try to use this data as a baseline. It will help measure yourself. It will help you to see how you're doing with feedback submission. Because your feedback strategy should target at least the same amount and quality of feedback that you've had in your previous iteration. For example, with Confluence, if you remember, we've had about 1,000 feedback submission. So now when we do another release, we use this as a baseline, and this helps us measure ourselves and see how our feedback loop compares with the previous ones. So, to wrap it up, what we talked about, build, measure, learn, the importance of learning and importance of unsolicited feedback. This goes a long way into engaging your customer and making your final application a lot better. My first tip was about reducing friction. Question every field on the feedback collection form. The second tip was about making the whole experience more fun and engaging. Game mechanics, think about incentives or how you want to incorporate into your strategy. Number 3, get personal, connect with your customer, understand exactly what your customer wants so that you can give it to him. And lastly, don't be afraid to spend a little time to sit down and write that feedback strategy to guide you. So, that was it. So thank you very much for your time. And, see you at the bar tonight.
Thank you.
Have you got any questions?
Yes, questions.
Thanks for the talk. It was great to learn about how to get more user feedback, because that's what I could see in the slides during the talk. Good tools to get more user feedback. What about how effective that amount of Any tips on reasoning about that? In other words, you brought all the other responses because people wanted frequent repeats.
Yeah.
Now, what's the word?
Yeah, that's a good question. So so feedback, as you saw in the build version learn cycle, is a part of it. It's an important part, and there's a lot of parameters that we take into account when we're developing the product, be it a new product or a new feature or a change, and we look at that feedback and we acknowledge it. But of course, I think we use that feedback as mostly an inspiration, and also when we see a pattern in that feedback, then we understand that this is something worth looking at. So that's all.
So it once again comes to data analysis.
Yeah.
But the ways of getting the data are less conventional because it has to be created.
So what we use to get the feedback is we use a Jira, an issue tracker, and so we can track the feedback we have. And we can review the feedback and we can manage the feedback from there. So we can, during meetings, project management meetings or project development meetings, we can come up with a list of, the top feedback that we've had or the most recurrent feedback, and then we can talk about it, and this is how we manage it. And then we can decide which one to take into consideration. Yeah?
Well, you talked about receiving feedback about features in the product. What about receiving feedback about teamwork? I mean, product team from your customer.
I'm not sure about this because from what I understand is, so your question is how do customers give feedback about the work from the project team?
I mean, how can, for example, internal customer or external customer evaluate work of project team which creates this product?
Yeah, I think it's very abstract to them because whoever is making the feature, what we want to focus on is the quality of the feature made. So this feedback strategy, you can apply it to any new features, regardless of making abstraction of the team behind it. So the feedback for the project team will not be coming from the customers, but it will be coming from the team leader or the management.
Yeah, we have experience of resolving this together feedback from management about teamwork. I mean, your products are similar. Have you ideas to implement this feature in your products? Whether feedback about teamwork, about working teams.
So you're asking for the customer to give feedback on the work made by the team?
I mean, how can we gather customer feedback about work of project team?
Yeah, I don't think we do this. We really focus on the product more than on the team. And feedback on the team, I think we don't ask the customers to give us feedback on the team, but we ask the customers to give us feedback on the product.
Okay.
So that's
Thank you for the talk. And my question is, how much feedback did you have putting that button on each screen of your application? I mean,
with the feedback button?
Yep.
So that was the one we did for Confluence at the time, a couple of years ago. And this is when we got about 1,000 feedback submissions.
1,000 feedbacks during what time?
Yeah, during the beta iteration of the release. So we do an iteration. So it was just for one iteration of the release.
And how many users did really use the product during the beta phase?
That's a good question. I don't have this information, but I would suspect that it's of course a lot more than 1,000 users. So if you're asking for the percentage of feedback from users compared to how many users used it,
yep.
I don't have this data. But what I can tell you is that for the same amount of users, using that strategy, provided us with the most amount of feedback. So this was the most productive use.
Okay, and did you have some kind of special person that was processing that feedback and gathering into the classes or stuff like that?
Yes, so we have the product manager and the product marketing. They, as I said, when we gather that feedback into the project tracker, then they can see and they can select and see what they want to talk about and what they want to look at in more details.
So the product manager gathered all the feedback into the classes and then presented it to the team, so
Yeah.
the team can do something about it.
Well, that can be the team, or it can be the product manager, but it can be also the team lead. So it doesn't got to be always the same person. But the idea is to have one person from the team who can recognize the pattern and we can acknowledge the validity of the feedback received. And then this can be put as a topic in a team meeting. And then this can be discussed and see which one is the most valuable.
And how much time does it take to process that kind of feedback, that amount of feedback?
That's also a good question. I don't think we measured that. We just measured the amount of information we've had. But yeah, I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
So that you are trying to avoid the extra and fields in platforms and still only want to get information from your users. Maybe sometimes it's not enough information that you get from the logical group, and only want to get in touch with this exact user and try to find out some more information from people. At the same time, you are trying to avoid talking. How to do this?
So how do you get more information if you need to?
If you avoid talking and if you avoid extra fields.
Yeah. That's a good question. I like it. I like the other questions too, and this one because this is really this implements a principle of getting people engaged. Basically, I think with this technique, we will not so much interested into getting the information that we want. We want to get information, but we're more interested into getting that attention from the customer. And if you present the customer with a huge form, you can see it when you go here into the booth. Sometimes you've got forms to fill in to get a t-shirt or something. And if that form is really long, even though you really want the t-shirt, you're like, I don't want to fill that form. But if that form is 2 fields, then you're more encouraged. And what this means is that you're committing to something. So with a very simple form, you're not afraid of giving your feedback, and you're committing to it. And then we get this information that we want. And most of the time, we will get the information we want will be your username or your email address or something that we can contact you back. So that when we think the information you gave us is valid, then we can contact you back and ask you for this information we need.
In your case, this means that the end user has already submitted his personal data before he got it.
Yeah, that can be because you can make it a mandatory field, or you can also have a list of users who you're collaborating with for them to submit you this information. So that's one of the topics of the discussion. I think if you want to implement this technique, you can decide, all right, we need this information, we need to get back to the user. So how do we capture this information? Do we ask him to enter it manually, for which he can enter anything he wants or make a typo? How can we automate this? So maybe you can find a way to automate the collecting of this information. Or you can be proactive and send a list to these customers you want to work with and say, hey, you got this feedback button, I invite you to just click on it and give my feedback. And then when you get them engaged, then the relationship is created and then it's for you to maintain it. It's very powerful. Okay.
Next to the feedback, because I'm a user of Confidence and here I like to understand that it's great, but I really miss a paper marker.
Yes, I'm not about it. It's back. There's I think this because I don't know about it because I've never worked with it. So for everybody, I think we were looking forward, and for everybody who's adopting the Confluence now, they have no idea about the wiki markup. So for the new users, it's really natural. And I think we understand that there was a little bit of a friction in that change, but there's been a lot of communications about it. And as much as I'd like to, put it back there, I don't think it's going to happen. You're welcome. Anyone? Okay. Okay, well, thanks again.
Thank you.
And,